I'm just going to start by saying that as of the time of posting this video, the Acura TSX debuted 21 years ago. Let that sink in for a minute. To put that in perspective, when the TSX first rolled out across showroom floors, you talked to most of your friends online via MSN Messenger, had just gotten hooked on the OC after your girlfriend convinced you to watch just one episode with her, and were listening to most of your favorite songs on your first ever iPod. If you were living in California, you had also just elected a brand new governor.
My government does not like to do laundry in public.
The Acura brand was in a sense redefining itself around this time. They were sort of moving away from the precision-crafted performance model that had defined the brand in the 80s and early 90s, and the new slogan was Acura Advance. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Who are you trying to be, Acura?
Whoever you want me to be.
Well, in the 2000s at least, Acura wanted to be seen as a more mature brand. All two-door models were soon to be discontinued, and their first ever SUV was about to go on sale. And if the RL was for CEOs and the TL was for real estate agents, the TSX was for the recent college grad who just started working at the latest tech company. Too old for 3 doors, but not old enough for 5 doors. Now, everywhere else in the world, the TSX was the 7th generation Honda Accord, but in North America, we got this as our Accord. So the JDM Euro Accord was badge engineered upwards to an Acura model. So grab your flip phone or your slide phone or whatever this thing is, and let's head back to the beginning of the millennium to take a closer look at the Acura TSX. Debuting in 2003 as a 2004 model, the original TSX was sedan only. Exterior styling, while rather plain, has aged gracefully and still holds up to date without looking too dated. In a March 2003 press release, Honda states that the TSX, based off their sophisticated European Accord, is meant to compete against the European D segment, which is a sporty near-luxury segment that includes cars like the Audi A4 and the BMW 3 Series. And the target market? Young, hip, technically astute, college-educated 30-somethings who still know all the best spots in town for a night out, yet still show up for work every morning. It wasn't 2024 yet. Busy individuals with a career, side hustles, and social engagements, and some of whom might have been too busy to remember to renew their insurance. So, yo, it's cool, man. That will like buff right out, so I'm just gonna dip. These buyers have a desire to own an upscale brand, but still want something that's fun to drive, and they don't quite have Lexus or RL money yet. So unlike luxury cars on the other end of the scale, which are primarily focused on comfort, the TSX focuses on the sport end of the scale. Front double wishbone and multi-link rear suspension provides smooth handling and flat cornering, and under the hood is a K-Series. The K24A2 to be exact. And while it is similar to the K-Series found in North American Accords or CRVs, this intelligent VTEC version of the K-Series revs up to 7,100 RPM, and like the K20A2 from the RSX Type S, operates the variable valve timing on both intake and exhaust cams, as opposed to most other K-Series engines which have multiple cam profiles on the intake side only. At the peak of the power band, this gave the TSX 200 horsepower and 166 pound-feet of torque that could be paired either with a 5-speed automatic with sport shift or a crisp shifting close ratio 6-speed manual, which is obviously the proper transmission choice for this vehicle. In a move reminiscent of the original Legend marketing strategy, there was only one trim level. All TSXs had leather upholstery, dual-zone automatic climate control, power everything, sunroof, keyless entry, and a premium 8-speaker audio system. The only option aside from transmission choice was navigation, which featured a pretty nice sized digital screen. With or without Navi, I think the TSX has a pretty nice interior. It's a good example of balance between performance and comfort, sportiness and luxury, and I actually prefer it to the TL interior. The gauges in particular look better on the TSX. But I will say that at a quick glance from the front, it can be a little hard to tell a TSX from a TL. But just wait a few years, this corporate grille nonsense is only gonna get worse. Fast forwarding a few years to 2006, and technology is changing rapidly. CRT monitors are so last decade, and all the RL and TL owners have Blackberries now. But as a 30-something TSX owner, you're still rocking your Motorola Razr and wondering why so many electronics are named after fruits these days. As far as your finances go, you can't quite decide where you should invest some of that extra money you've been saving. Uncle Jack says you should invest in Amazon stock, but an online bookstore doesn't seem like something that's going to take off in this new paperless digital world. With the CL already gone on and the RSX to be out of production by the end of the year, the TSX, unless you're Canadian, was the entry-level Acura, the entry point to the brand as Acura themselves stated. The TSX received its mid-model update this year, so as per usual we would expect to see different colored turn signal lenses, a different front bumper, and maybe a different steering wheel, but actually no, this update was even more minimal than usual. There was a new front bumper which now included standard fog lights and a new grille, and Acura does say the headlights and taillights are redesigned, but like I don't know, like I can't see it. Can you? There were new wheels and a slightly refined gauge cluster which featured a new larger multifunction center display screen, as well as a few new features like memory seats and an aux input for the sound system. This really might be the most subtle mid-model update I've seen from Honda. Since you already bought the 04, there's probably not a whole lot motivating you to trade it in on an 06 model and take the hit on all that depreciation. After all, you're a business-savvy TSX owner, not a fat cat corporate exec RL owner.
Could I speak to the drug dealer of the house, please?
Or your neighbor Shannon, who seems to have enough disposable income to fill the entire block with Lexus models. But I think she just buys all those cars to park them on the street to make the neighborhood seem more affluent than it is, so her house price goes up. Of course, on the other side of the TSX redesign coin, some would say if it's not broken, don't fix it. I admitted earlier that the TSX doesn't look too dated, even today, so maybe they just got the look right the first time around. Under the hood for 06, the power rating increased to 205 horsepower, thanks to larger intake valves, increased valve timing and lift, and improved intake and exhaust flow. It should be noted that the new power and torque specs were rated using the new SAE calculations that had gone into effect the previous year. Now, if we fast forward ahead to 20 years or so, back to... Sorry, I can't quite accept that the mid-2000s was 20 years ago.
I'm told!
Just how well has your investment held up? Yeah, I know you should have invested in that Amazon thing, but I'm talking about your car. Well, unlike your investment record and savings account, your car probably held up pretty well. There are still plenty of these on the road today, and you don't need to do a ton of maintenance on them, provided you keep that thirsty K-series full of oil. Remember, dehydrated K-series equals stretched timing chains, and that's probably not something you want to deal with. But with a little maintenance and lubrication, after the RSX was discontinued, the TSX was probably the most reliable Acura you could buy. The K-series tends to be a little more reliable than its larger J-series counterpart. Now, I'm not talking about Legend or Integra reliability here, but at a time when Honda was starting to cost cut across the board, the TSX was probably the best new Acura you could get. Or at least that's what I think. For 2009, the TSX entered its second generation. Still based off of the Euro Accord, the second gen platform was 3 inches wider and 2.5 inches longer. From the rear, the design looked like a fairly natural evolution from the 08 model. From the front, it was corporate image front fascia. No room for creativity or innovation here. The interior was nice, I still like these gauges better than what's in the TL, and standard luxury features included leather upholstery, heated memory seats, dual zone climate control, power sunroof, Xeon headlights, and a USB audio interface. But this was all pretty standard luxury car stuff by 2009. An optional technology package added navigation, real-time traffic and weather, and a premium 10-speaker sound system with DVD audio capability. DVDs are so 2009. The engine, for the first year at least, was still a 4-cylinder K-series. The K24Z3 output 201 horsepower and 172 pound-feet of torque. While technically horsepower is just slightly lower than the previous year, the new engine distributed power more evenly across the RPM range. Transmission choices were still 5-speed automatic, now with paddle shifters, or the proper 6-speed manual. For the 2010 model year, Acura added a V6 option to the TSX, which used the 280 horsepower J35 Z6 shared with the TL. But this $5,500 engine option came only with the automatic transmissions, so like, I think if you really want a V6 Acura sedan in 2010, you may as well just get a TLSH manual. Except for those aren't really that attractive, so maybe get a G37 actually.
How dare you?
2011 was the refresh year. The corporate front fascia was slightly updated and an extra chrome piece of trim was added to the trunk lid. This is a luxury car after all, we'll let you have that extra piece of silver plastic. Beginning with this year, the technology package would add climate control vents for the rear occupants. Also for 2011, Acura released the TSX Sport Wagon. That's right, a station wagon version of the TSX came to the United States. Now the Euro Accord, which the TSX is based off of, had a station wagon version ever since 2003, but the first TSX generation never imported the wagon model over. This time they did though, and it was an interesting choice, since station wagons hadn't been popular over here since the 90s. In fact, Acura Canada decided not to sell the Sport Wagon up here for that very reason, but for some reason they still decided to sell the ZDX. The sport wagon came only with the 4-cylinder K-Series and unfortunately exclusively with an automatic, although I guess I understand that since buyers who want the sportiness of a manual are probably not going to buy a station wagon. In 2012 there was a special edition, which was a sportier version of the 4-cylinder. It was sort of like an A-Spec trim. As a matter of fact, it was sold as the A-Spec trim in Canada. The special edition had red backlighting for the instrument cluster, new seats with suede inserts and red stitching, aluminum pedals, and silver color plated paddle shifters on the automatic. But you better be getting the manual if you're buying one of these, son. On the outside there were unique wheels, a more aggressive front spoiler, unique side sills, and what Acura calls an exclusive special edition badge on the trunk lid. And there weren't any actual performance upgrades. Oh wait, I forgot about the color red. Every Honda owner knows that that adds at least 30 horsepower.
Really?
No.
The TSX would continue on pretty much unchanged for 2 more years, with 2014 being the final model year. For 2015, it was replaced by the ILX as Acura's new entry-level model. Well, I guess I'll keep rolling in my sport wagon. I love its versatility. There's never anywhere to park in this neighborhood. You know, you don't own the whole street, Shannon. Welcome to 2014.